are back going to be talking about Survivor Season 39, Island of the Idols, Episode 5. So, my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and I don't know about y'all, but I was a little disappointed we didn't get to see the island of the idols in this episode. Like, we saw our idols in their little, tribal council, hut thingy, but we never actually saw their huge faces made out of wood. And, my heart was a little bit sad.
Yo, in the intro, I was going to make that exact same joke. Like, oh, was this Island of the Idols if we didn't go to Island of the Idols? But I think it was refreshing to not have like a reward challenge, a tribe swap, and an immunity challenge, and Island of the Idols all like trying to be squished into one episode. So it was refreshing to not have someone walk down that beach and was like, OMG, who are these people? Haha.
Yeah, it was nice not to have the same reaction over and over. And yeah. Speaking of refreshing, have you tried Applebee's Shark Bowl drink? Because apparently it's the best damn drink these people have ever had.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been to Applebee's. Like, not once.
I know I have seen Applebee's, and one time I asked my parents if we could go to Applebee's because I've seen Applebee's so much, and my parents were like, "It's literally not worth the money." So I
Yeah,
think the best thing to come out of this episode was all of the people tweeting about Applebee's and how Applebee's sucks.
like, I don't even think you would go there after a night out drinking. Like, everyone in college, I feel like they go to Taco Bell after they go to the bar. You would not go to a freaking Applebee's even when you're intoxicated.
I love that Christmas. Applebee's is my favorite restaurant.
I'm like, oh, you have some low standards for restaurants and favorite sit-down restaurant. Like, nonetheless, I'm like, oh, there are a lot way better sit-down restaurants, unless you really narrow it down. And it's like, oh, my favorite like sit-down fast food American restaurant, but then even Chipotle or something could be better.
My favorite sit-down restaurant that has the name of both a fruit and a insect in it.
Yeah, Applebee's. I was like, okay, I guess, understandable you all are starving out there, but then when everyone had such amazing reactions to the specific names of all of these foods, I was like, I have never heard of this in my life. Like, what the heck?
And Tommy talking about the shark bowl drink, and he was like, and there was the big gummy shark in the middle. I was like, am I supposed to know what the shark bowl drink is? So yeah, that was just, they might as well have painted corporate sponsorship over half the episode, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like at least Outback is good. I like Outback. Applebee's, I'm like, never even have been to. It was just, oh, it was a big
Yeah,
oof.
it was a big oof. I feel like a lot of things in this episode were a big oof.
But enough about Applebee's because, that's why they got the sponsorship with Survivor to get people to talk about them and probably to get people to go try their Shark Bowl, whatever drinks that probably aren't even that alcoholic.
Yeah. But anyways, we start this episode talking about Detective Dean, who is trying to figure out who voted out Chelsea. And Detective Dean asks Missy if she was the one who did it, and Missy was like, no one ordered a hit. And then there was a flashback to her being
Yeah.
I want Chelsea gone. And I was like,
Okay, we need the stats of who has gotten a flashback one episode later to literally last week's episode. It wasn't like in last week's episode how we had flashbacks to like, oh, Boston Rob or Eric being snuffed. It's like literally this happened last week and you're going to flash back to it.
Yeah, it seemed kind of like, do you not trust your viewers to remember what happened?
And it was weirder because that scene happened on the show. Like, it wasn't sort of how sometimes editing likes to trick the viewers and we don't necessarily know who's going home and then it's a blindside for the viewers when the person that goes home at Tribal goes home. This was like, okay, we had 3 names on the table. And then Chelsea was the one that ended up going. And we saw Missy talking to Elaine last week, and then we see it again this week too. I was just a little bit confused about that. I also feel like Missy's edit is sort of interesting because she, in that confessional where she's like, yeah, nobody ordered the hit, she's like, don't bite the hand that feeds you, Dean. And so I don't know. I feel like she's coming off as sort of very cocky in this way.
I think it's interesting though because like we haven't seen any negative repercussions for her yet. So it'll be interesting to see if like this cockiness is building up to her being like blindsided or if it's just like establishing that she's a competent player.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I'm also very intrigued by Dean's edit when he started getting these confessionals last week, and then he started the episode this week. He was the first confessional, and then, like we're saying, he went around to be Detective Dean. It was like, oh, is he going home this week now? Is he going to get screwed over by a tribe swap? And like, that's why he didn't get any confessionals the first 2 episodes. And so it seems like he's actually like making inroads and has a social game. So I think it's really interesting that he had such a dismal edit at the beginning and now he's starting to pick up steam.
I think that it's just leading up to him being voted out though. It's
like a blindside.
Something happening. Because like first we see his attachment to Chelsea and then we see his attachment to Kelly and how Kelly's like, I don't want to be the next Chelsea. So I don't know. The fact that his edit is consistently tied to like another person and like one other person specifically, I think is going to be not good for his longevity in the game. So we'll see.
Yeah. The edit for him is very interesting. I thought it was also interesting how nobody was willing to tell him who threw or like who was the first person to throw Chelsea's name out there. And I thought that was a good strategy from everyone else because you don't want to be the person if you're like Elizabeth and be like, yeah, Missy was the one who told me to vote for Chelsea. But then when Dean goes to Missy, Dean would be like, oh, Elizabeth told me that you wanted Chelsea out, and then Missy can sort of turn it around and be like, oh, Elizabeth is the snake. Why would she say that? She's just trying to throw me under the bus. She was actually the mastermind, and then it would just cause a big fight to happen. So I thought it was very smart of everyone else to like not throw anyone else under the bus.
Yeah, I think it's good because it can, like you said, very quickly lead to like a cycle of retribution. So good on all of them. I think it's very much like a snitches get stitches attitude. And we'll have to talk about that after the tribe swap because I feel like there's one person in particular who does not understand the snitches get stitches attitude.
So, top of the episode, we see the tribe swap. And so these tribes are very unfair. When we see New Purple, it's a 4-4 with 4 original purple, 4 original orange. And it's Dan, Jason, Tommy, Lauren, Elizabeth, Missy, Aaron, and Elaine. And this team is just literally stacked. If you just look at those 8 people physically, I'm like, okay, Orange is probably going to lose all of them coming up.
Yeah, and then I think it's so stupid because Purple has to realize this, and then they still don't vote out the person who's the physically weakest. Like, y'all are. Yeah, just. Yeah.
I think,
know.
yeah, when we go ahead.
I don't know what math they're doing, but I think when we get to talking about who gets voted out from Purple, we can.
It's Orange.
Orange. I don't remember my colors anymore. I was thinking about how purple is overpowered, and then so purple came out of my mouth. And yeah, but anyways, orange has a losing streak. As Jeff pointed out during the immunity challenge, they've only won once, and I feel so bad for them because it's like sometimes you win like the reward challenges but lose the immunity challenge, and you still like get a morale boost. But they totally flopped on this reward challenge too.
Yeah, I think with New Purple tribe reactions, it's interesting. I feel like how Elaine's edit right before the tribe swap, she's saying, "Oh, I'm so nervous. I'm not lucky." And then after the tribe swaps at the Applebees reward, she says she didn't like her other three mingling with the original purple because they need to stay 4-4 strong. So like one of them isn't going home. And so I thought that was interesting because I really feel like it alludes to next week, especially in the preview. We see Aaron and Missy seem like they're very self-preservationist and they would probably vote out Elaine. And I think if Purple somehow loses the immunity challenge next week and they're going to go to tribal, I do not think there is going to be a rock draw. I think Aaron and Missy are going to be the first and probably will vote out Elaine. Especially if you think about it, Aaron didn't like Elaine day one and thought she had too big of a social game, and then him and Ronnie became close. So I could definitely see no rock draw happening and them flipping on Elaine because they just seem too self-preservationist.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see if the next time on Survivor is like an accurate portrayal of what goes down, or if it's just like hyped up to make us like think like, oh, next week's episode's gonna be super wild. Because I feel like it could also just be like a normal episode that they just selectively like picked little bits of to um like make a better like
Yeah, because
preview.
I don't see Purple going to tribal unless somehow they lose immunity, but their tribe is just way too stacked to go. And I think it's interesting also how Aaron and Missy said that Orange is dead, you know, versus the Purple tribe in this 4-4 split seem like they all want to stay together in Dan, Jason, Tommy, and Lauren. Like, I think it's so cool or like interesting to look at how the purple has honestly become stronger and then orange is literally just crumbling, which I think like orange just started playing too quickly from day one with blindside after blindside after blindside versus purple, even though they did have a blindside in a Molly, like they were sort of able to reunite and not be like, I want to vote out one of my own every single time. Versus it seems like Aaron and Missy are very gung ho on the orange is dead. We are going to flip if it's a 4-4 split.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where purple, the person they voted out, ended up making their tribe stronger because they were like more unified. And orange, the people that they voted out just made their tribe more and more divided because it made people like scared. And it was always like, why'd you do that to my alliance member or something like that? So, yeah, it'll be interesting because I could see the same thing. I could see if New Purple does go to tribal council with the attitude they seem to have, it could very quickly turn ugly for them because it would be very divisive.
Yeah, we also see Aaron wanting to hook up with Tommy. And so I thought that was interesting because I feel like recently, at least in US Survivor, we see right at the merge, it's big guy. So big males go home back to back. And so I thought that was interesting how they sort of are on the same page of like, I need to protect you, you need to protect me. Otherwise, we're going to be going home back to back to back right at the merge. And so I thought that was interesting. And so it just leans more into Aaron wanting to probably flip on Orange if it does come down to a 4-4 draw versus people like Elaine who want to keep the four together. Aaron is most definitely probably willing to flip next week.
Yeah, Aaron, I think, is interesting because we don't really see a lot of him, but what we do see of him is like, I don't know, he seems very strategic, but none of it's ever really shown in a flattering light, if that makes sense. Like, Aaron's shown as a good strategist, but not as a winner.
Yeah, I could see it. I could definitely see him and Missy sort of overplaying right now, especially because maybe since Aaron was blindsided first vote, he's been on his toes, he's been on edge because he saw how quickly like you can get voted out of the game and be blindsided out, and he doesn't want that to happen to him. And yeah, I just see that they're very balls to the wall right now, and I that might not bode well for them because I think from an outside perspective, if we can see it, other people can see it too. And like Detective Dean said, the person that got the hit on Chelsea is probably someone that they need to take out. And so if people like Dean can see it, other people can probably see that Missy and Aaron are very strategic.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like you don't want to say like, oh, don't play hard because it would be boring if nobody like played until the merge happened. But there's definitely a line you gotta walk because I think we see a lot of times like the big time strategists, the people who come out of the gate too hard, are the ones who get voted out. And I've noticed that seems to be women a lot as well. But
You just need to have another edge of extinction. And then you get Vince and Chelsea coming back in, a la Chris and Rick Devens coming back in and winning the game. So maybe every season needs that so you don't get those good players booted early. But moving into New Orange Tribe, that one has a 5-3 split of 5 original purple, 3 original orange. The purple are Nora, Kelly, Jamal, Jack, Janet. The orange are Karishma, Tom, and Dean. And this is like straight up the B team. If you got to pick your people, I feel like this is like a hodgepodge group of random people.
yeah, yeah. Like I feel bad because like I feel like the beginning tribes are always kind of balanced because they want it not to be a blowout, but then if you get tribe swapped onto an awful tribe, you can just be screwed from like the swap until the merge. And I feel like that's what happened to everyone. And I especially feel bad for the people in the minority because it's like when you know that you're going to be losing multiple times in a row, it's easier just to pick off like the minority and then turn to self cannibalism. But
Yeah, I thought with New Orange, it's interesting how Jamal and Nora were sort of on the bottom of their original purple tribe, but now new light for them. They're in a 5-3 majority on that tribe. So I think that is interesting to see how like the tribe swap can work in your favor for those people, but then it definitely does not work in your favor if you're someone like Tom, who was protected at multiple votes on the first tribe, had a majority alliance, and then gets voted out at a tribe swap. So I think it definitely works both ways for people, can give you new light in the game, or it could snuff your torch. But in the preview for next week, we do see Nora talking with Dean about wanting to flip on Jamal and Jack, particularly, I believe. And so I thought that was interesting because good for Nora if this does happen, or if it is just the snippet and a New Orange doesn't go to tribal council next week. But you know, Nora, even though with all her crazy antics, I think she's learning how to play the game, and that's all we can ask for. It's good that, like Jamal said after the Molly blindside, he'll forgive, but he doesn't forget. And Jamal was one of the people bringing up Nora's name at the beginning. So if she strikes first, I think that'll be interesting. Or if, and yeah, Jamal has an immunity idol as well. So if New Orange does go back, I think it would be very interesting to see an idol blindside.
or it would be really interesting to see another person getting voted out with an idol in their pocket. So I don't know. Nora is just like I just don't understand her at all. So
Why?
I don't know. She just like she seems to not be taking the game seriously at all, but at the same time she's taking it so seriously, and I'm just like, what is happening? Because it's like she's in the middle of tribal council. No one says anything funny, and she's just like laughing up a storm. And I'm like, Nora, what are you doing?
That's
So,
her quirky antics. And so reward challenge happens. This was an interesting reward challenge. I feel like still Australian Survivor, I like their challenges better than the US version, but this was fun to watch people wiggle. My one thing was, why is Karishma and Nora on the challenge together?
my thing is, why is Krishma on the challenge at all?
You should yeah, like even though she might not be the best at puzzles, you had Jamal and Kelly at the end there. I don't know. I'm like, if you want to, like they're always saying, minimize her damage to the tribe team, like why not give her the puzzle? I was confused.
Yeah, and I think it's especially confusing because like they know she's not good at physical things, and it's just like if you know that someone is weak at something and you continue to put them on the same thing, that's just where I get confused because it's like Krishma showed that she was really poor at physical challenges in the reward challenge, and then they put her on the physical part again for the immunity challenge, and I'm like, guys, you're just
Yeah, honestly though, because like they're just like setting her up for failure, honestly. It's like, okay, let's put her there so when we lose, we can blame it on her. But it's like Tom and Janet were the ones that got the slow start to the beginning of the reward challenge. Like Jeff was calling her out on the immunity challenge for being slow over the freaking balance beam. And then it's like, yo, it's the team that wins or loses. It's not necessarily just one person. Sometimes it is if it's like a puzzle, but then it's like, oh, maybe the person started the puzzle behind by 3 minutes, and that could be the make it or break it moment. I feel like people are just setting Karishma up to fail, and it's sort of unfair. She could have been one of the people throwing the basketballs and not like 4 people were at that part in the immunity challenge. 2 are treading water and 2 do basketballs. Just put the like Tommy won it for them and they didn't switch out versus Dean didn't win it for them. You could have one person there doing nothing and then you could still win the challenge. Like there's sort of loopholes.
I don't know because Krishna was really far behind though. Like especially in the reward challenge, you could see like Nora literally had to pull her. So I'm not sure if they're setting up Karishma for failure or if there's just no way they could set Karishma up for success. Just because like she's shown she's not good at puzzles, she's shown she's not good at the physical part, and just like we'll talk about it more later when we like talk about Karishma, but mm, she's not good at playing herself up as an asset to the tribe. And yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, so I guess tribal council, Karishma also before that has a segment talking about her husband. I really like that segment. Very deep and emotional. I feel like we don't necessarily see that a lot on TV. Also wondering, like, since it was aired on national television, if it is having repercussions in her real life or if it's something that she's like more able to talk about now with her partner. So I don't know. I thought it was unique.
Yeah, I kind of wondered the same thing because it's like when you say stuff like that on Survivor, I think you almost assume it's not going to get shown because it's like they have so much other footage that they could use. I think it's interesting because it's like giving Karishma like a backstory and stuff, but
Yeah, she's
um,
honestly one of the players that we know the most about now.
yeah, and I'm kind of confused by it because like edit wise, it seems like nothing's really going for her, but then she also gets so much screen time talking about like her and her personal struggles. So I'm just confused.
Yo,
But
Karishma's my winner pick. So now I think even though she's not playing the weak strategy of like, let me be super bad at everything and make it to the merge and then no one's going to vote you out, but her being super weak and sort of bad at everything has actually worked to her advantage because people are not willing to vote her out of the game. And it's been 3 tribals now that she has not been voted out, even though with the edit, we see that she's not necessarily helping the tribe. So I think in the future, if people purposefully go in and do the I'm so bad at everything, he who, like vote me out, but don't vote me out because I have no friends and I'm bad at everything. No one, I'm not a threat. Like that could be a strategy.
yeah, but I think it takes a lot to come back from that to then build up a post merge resume of like, I deserve to win. I wasn't just dragged here. So
Like you
I
be
think,
weak and then come the merge, you go balls to the wall and you're like, haha, I fooled y'all. Because I feel like pre-merge is one of the hardest parts of the game, and especially we see a lot of men do it where they pretend that they're weaker than they are. Tyson did it in Blood versus Water where he sort of faked an injury so people wouldn't see him as a physical threat. Jeremy gained a bunch of weight before Second Chance so people wouldn't think that he's that buff. I think it'd be an interesting thing if women did it too, pretend to be super bad and then you're actually come the merge, it's less likely you'd get voted out.
The thing is, when a woman pretends to be super bad, she just gets voted
Gets
out for
voted
not
out.
being competent. So it's fine. But I think Karishma's going to have to do some serious work. Because I think if you get to the final tribal council and you're like, my strategy was to be so weak that no one voted me out, the jury's just going to be like, what the fuck? So
yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Like we said last week, if Karishma keeps staying around, we want to see her play the game. We don't want to see her whining about everyone trying to vote her out every week. We want to see her play the game. And so I feel like we saw it a little bit this week. So I was proud. Okay, she says she's playing the social game. She's talking to people. She's not just wallowing and being boo-hoo, boo me, I'm getting voted out. But she's actually semi doing something about it. And so I'm okay, at least she's learning.
yeah, I just think it might be too little too late for her. Just because it's once you get that target on your back, it's very difficult to get it off. And she's been lucky that there's always been someone else throwing out a name oh, we should get rid of this person because for whatever reason. And eventually people are going to run out of other names. So
yeah, I feel like we sort of saw it last season with Wendy, how she was on the chopping block night one, didn't go home, but then once you're on the chopping block, you're always on the chopping block because you're just an easy backup. And so her being the split vote with Vince, now you're just always the easy vote if someone else has an idol or something like that.
yeah. So very rarely do we see winners have as many votes as Karishma's gotten. So
yeah, so tribal council and leading up to tribal, every time I felt like this episode Tom had screen time, he was sort of bad mouthing Karishma, which I thought was interesting on the rewatch of it. I think after marinating in it, it sort of does make sense to vote Tom out because if you are the majority of the 5 purple, you can technically lose the rest of the tribals before the merge and just vote out Dean and Karishma in the next 2 weeks, and then you make it to the merge, which honestly might not be the worst strategy, but if I were there, I would never want to lose a immunity because you never know, you could get idled out or just randomly go home or something. So, but I think it does make sense to vote Tom, even though they might lose the rest of the challenges. Because with Dean and Kelly have the relationship, even though Dean might be more physical, Dean doesn't have any friendships necessarily with the old orange tribe. Karishma is also on the out, so you can bring her in if you're the majority purple tribe versus Tom. Like Janet says, Janet was the only one we really saw get close to Tom. Janet says that Tom is probably going to flip back to his original tribe because he has that tribe mentality. And so if you're thinking in that way, it sort of does make sense to vote that person out because 99% they aren't going to go with you versus Dean and Karishma, you might be able to drag along a little bit. Even though they might lose every challenge now until the merge, but you have the extra people you can vote out anyways.
I just think it's one of those things where you never want to put yourself in a position where you could lose immunity because yeah, it might look like a straightforward vote, yeah, we'll just vote out Dean and then vote out Karishma if we need to, but rarely is it ever actually that straightforward.
Yeah.
And it's if I have a choice between not going to tribal and going to tribal, I will pick not going to tribal. So I don't know.
No, yeah, me too. I feel like you never want to throw a challenge even if you have an agenda that you want to get done because you never know what could happen. Shit might hit the fan and then you go home on a challenge you threw or something like that.
And
I
in
think
some ways I feel like keeping Karishma is like throwing challenges. Because it's like she's shown that she's not a physical asset whatsoever. And like, yeah, Tom might not be super great at everything because he's getting older, but he like from what we've seen of him in challenges, he's never obviously been holding his tribe back the way Karishma was.
Yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to see, like, first, the reactions next week of the other tribe being like, what the heck, Karishma's still here? Like, oh, did we make an oopsie voting out Chelsea last week because now Tom is gone? I think that'll be funny to watch. And then I think, like, to have someone like Karishma this early in the game and you're going to drag her to the final three as maybe a GOAT or someone who's not doing that much on the game, I feel like it's a little bit early to have a GOAT set and drag them to the end because that's a lot of like sort of dead weight that you're carrying on for the tribe. And then if you do keep losing, like to put your neck out to keep Karishma around next week when that might be the easy vote out just because you want to have a GOAT or an easy vote in your pocket. It's sort of risky, I feel like. It's a little bit too early to try to like make sure you have a GOAT for the end.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of other people on the game still who could be a good GOAT, who wouldn't necessarily be as hard to keep around as Karishma, just because it's like Karishma has like a big spotlight on her right now.
Yeah. I think if Karishma makes the merge, though, like her stock goes way freaking up. Same with Nora. I think those two, if they do make it to the merge, they could make final three and be brought to the end. If they don't, if at least Karishma doesn't start necessarily playing the game or building some kind of resume, their stock is going to go way up if merge happens.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what happens, especially with Karishma. Next week, I think they've given us a lot of little hooks in the next time on Survivor. So I'm interested to see how that all plays out.
Yes. So thank you all so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Let us know in the comments down below, was this vote the right move to vote out Tom or was it the wrong move? And who would you vote out? Dean, Karishma, or would you flip on the majority purple tribe?
Yeah, so let us know all that down in the comments below. Also tell us, what do you think of Karishma? What do you think of Nora? Did you miss seeing Rob and Sandra? Lots of questions, lots of answers. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.